Hello again. So, yesterday my wife and I went along to the cinema to see the Elvis film. The cinema we go to is one of these new ones where you sit on two-seater sofas, which are pretty much enclosed at a little table, and they serve food and drink before the film starts, which we really like. They had a special cocktail menu with some Elvis cocktails, so my wife tried them. So I went into this film with some feelings of reserve. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I didn't watch anybody's reviews deliberately, because I wanted to see what I thought of it, and then afterwards I'll go and watch other people. So, what did I think of it? Well, first of all, I think Baz Luhrmann's style of filmmaking actually suits the Elvis story. Let's face it, Elvis was flashy and gaudy a lot of the time, but he could carry it off where a lot of other people couldn't. So from that point of view, I quite liked his way of making the film. It was very fast. He didn't linger on things for very long. There were times when I'd like a bit more of the story to come out. So I think if you go into it not really knowing Elvis' story, you might get a bit left behind at times. Doing the film from Parker's point of view, I also think was a good idea. One of the problems I had with the Kurt Russell film, because Elvis is the narrator, we had him saying things that we couldn't possibly know that he said or thought. Whereas with this being from Parker's point of view, you didn't get that. And of course Parker didn't really socialise with Elvis that much, which might be an explanation for not including certain things about his private life. Parker wouldn't really have been that involved in it. The highlighting of Elvis's background in a black community and black music was well done. I think a little bit overstated. What they didn't include was the fact that Elvis was equally influenced by country and western music and people like Mario Lanza. And it wasn't that Elvis was regurgitating black music, he was fusing it with white music to create a totally unique style. One of the things you notice when you listen to Elvis in the 50s, go and find somebody else that sounds like him. There isn't anybody. Nobody sounded. The style of Elvis, the music that Elvis was doing and the way he was doing it is unique. So all this, Elvis was copycat of black music, is totally false. And of course the black musicians of the 50s knew this, which is why so many of them were his personal friends. You tend to find the black artists that criticise Elvis are people who never met him once in their life, and it's received bias in a lot of times. Anyway, the chronology, of course, of the film was out, and some of the factual representations were wrong. But I don't have any problem with this. This was not a documentary. If they'd have done this in, say, This Is Elvis, which is a documentary, I would not have been happy. But this was Baz Luhrmann's telling of the story of Elvis's life. And so I don't have a problem with some of the stylistic decisions he took to change some of the facts. It's a bit like Bob Dylan used to say when he introduced one of his songs, "This story is true, just the facts are made up." And nothing that was wrong was that important. I liked Elvis performing Trouble at the Memphis show, which of course he didn't do, but it totally suited the situation that he'd built up, and the chaos and the controversy. So I had no problem with any of that. The modern music, totally out of place. It added absolutely nothing to the film. I could not see the point of it being there. Just leave it out. Modernising some of Elvis's music actually worked quite well at times. The hayride scene, I loved the whole thing. It's strange, during the film twice I got quite emotional, but not where you would expect. For instance, the ending I didn't get emotional. I think because I knew it was coming. He handled it tastefully. Very early on, I've only seen the film once, of course, and it happened so fast I can't remember the song, but very early on they show Elvis on stage in the 70s, and the music was building and everything just looked right, and I found myself getting emotional. I couldn't explain why. And then again, I think it was during the hayride scene when the hysteria grew and that, and for a moment, you forgot that this wasn't Elvis on the stage, and it was almost like you were witnessing this moment in history. So that was really well done. Very impressed. Tom Hanks was a bit of a cartoon. The accent was awful. Why on earth he chose that accent, I don't know. But what I did like, I was a bit worried when one of the trailers, when Hanks says, there are people who try to make it out that I'm the villain of this story, I thought, because I rarely talk about Parker, but anybody that knows me knows that I cannot stand Tom Parker. I don't think he did anything for Elvis. Anything, ever. He was only bad. All this, we got him a record contract and he got him on telly. No, Elvis was the hottest, most controversial star of the moment. Record companies would have been knocking on his door. Television would absolutely have been knocking on his door to get on that stage. Other rock and roll artists got contracts and got on stage and did tours. Parker was a minor con man who found himself way out of his league. He damaged Elvis's career. He held him back as an artist, and I don't see anything redeeming in Tom Parker, so I was pleased that the film showed that quite clearly. Butler is amazing. You can see the amount of research, the amount of work, and I think the amount of love and admiration in his performance. Just amazing. There were times when he really did, you forgot almost that this wasn't Elvis on the screen. I did find it a bit odd that they went to such lengths to recreate the 68 special, and that's the way it is, and they did it fantastically well. They did it so well that why not just use the original? That's what I ended up thinking. Apparently he performed, the band and him performed concerts before those audiences, which would have been amazing to see. I think that was as close as you're going to get to seeing Elvis in Vegas in the 70s today. A lot of stuff, of course, missed out of the film. It has to be. It's quite a long film. Apparently there is a 4-hour cut, Baz Luhrmann has said, which I would really like to see. They glossed over some things that I thought should have been some more time spent on them. I like the way they portrayed Gladys, not as this meek little lady, but as quite fiery and standing up for Elvis. A couple of things that were missing from the portrayal of Elvis, which I thought should really have been there, his sense of humour. Never took himself seriously. And his generosity. There was no sign of it. Oh, Elvis was nearly broke because he spent all his money. Elvis was nearly broke because he spent all his money, and he gave so much of it away. And they could have linked that into the poverty, because of course that's what drove him to give people gifts, because he understood what these gifts meant to people. And it made him feel good to see them. So I think that was a big thing missing from the film. But overall, I enjoyed it, which I wasn't sure that I would. It could have been a lot better, but I think it probably will be my favourite film of Elvis's life. I can't see anybody else doing it ever again. One thing I would like to have seen as part of the marketing of the film would have been a special limited 4-track EP being sold at the cinema venues, containing the original songs. And I would have put on there, even though it's not in the film, Change of Habit with In the Ghetto, Walk a Mile in My Shoes, and If I Can Dream. But that's just an idea. So overall, go and see it if you haven't gone to see it. It's really worth seeing. I hope that Butler wins the Oscar, because I watched the Queen film, and if that performance deserved an Oscar, then Butler's performance just blows that one out of the water. So that's my thoughts. I don't really do reviews. Yep. My next video, I think, is going to be Elvis 12-inch singles. Why on earth did they do that? I don't know. So till then, oh, my wife, she's not an Elvis fan. She knows nothing about his life. She doesn't listen to his music. She's a jazz fiend. She totally loved the film. As a non-fan, she thought it was fantastic. The style. She enjoyed the speed of the film. Loved the performances. She found Parker, as played by Hanks, funny. But she was shocked. She never realised how much backlash Elvis faced for what he was doing in the 50s, and just how badly he was treated by Parker and conned. So she came away with, an understanding and an admiration for Elvis as an artist and for what he went through. And I have hopes that non-fans will get to see Elvis in a new light, but we shall see. Apparently it's done really well at the box office in America, where I think it's vying with Top Gun for the #1 spot for the week. So fingers crossed, there's a really good reception. So now I'm going to go and look up everybody else's reviews and see what they thought. Bye for now.